Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hello. I'm doing a sound check and a connection check because I'm in a new place. Oh no, that's not good. No. Okay. And if the picture is stable, am I stable? Not as a human being. Is my image stable? Oh, it's complaining. I'm getting a message saying that the signal's bad. I might like max headroom. Because what I'd like to do is go live tomorrow. The picture's fine, looking good. Is the audio okay? Okay. Am I okay? Stable, Mabel. That's good news. Okay. Yeah, I think the Wi-Fi in this Airbnb is pretty good. It's a little glitchy now. Quality of the pic is dodgy. Well, there's no lights on. So the picture I can deal with as long as I'm not like going because I'm just using the webcam on the laptop, but I can buy like a 1080 webcam thing and plug it in. Blurry yellow background. That's fine. All right. Well, we're here now. I'll do any questions you want. Doesn't have to be on narcissism, CPTSD. It can be on literally anything. Don't fucking ask me about Israel and Palestine. Anything other than that, you can ask me. Audio and mouth not perfect. Is there a delay? But audio sync is off. Okay. Okie dokie. Thank you. Where are you and how's it going? I'm in Dubai and it's going well. Ferocity of Intent. Why did you stop those series? Was it supposed to be a series? Ferocity of Intent. Ferocity of Intent was something like a hangover from the self-defense days when I used to teach self-defense and combatives. Dude, do you age? You look the same as 6 years ago. I know. I'm gorgeous. Gorgeous, babes. Thank you, Sonic Blue Strat. You're right. Yes. Everyone thumb that or whatever you do. Correct. Handsome. It's good in Boston. Good. Are all Mummy's boys narcissistic, Richard? Oh, I don't really know that many Mummy's boys. But then the Mummy's boys that I do know, one of them was diagnosed with narcissism clinically. Mummy's boys. I really know Mummy's boys. Yeah. I don't know. I never really thought about that. That's weird. All this time, I had 11 years to think about it. I never asked myself that question. Yeah, there could be something to that. How much do you think unconsciousness has to do with mental health? Unconsciousness, right? You clip them across the jaw like this. And I have a predominantly female audience, but you got to learn how to defend yourselves. You bring the elbow high and then you hook across the jaw and you tap the jaw. And even if it's a big guy, you create unconsciousness and we'll deal with his mental health afterwards. Sorry, I didn't understand your question, so I made a joke. I'm sorry. It's good in Boston. Michigan is good. Hello, Boston. Hello, Michigan. Good morning, mate. Good morning to you. It's 9 p.m. here. How to handle an actual war zone. Nope. See, I'm not doing that. I'm not qualified. I'm not one of these online bellends who's like, oh, I have a channel about video games. Now I'm going to shove my oar in on some major event of massive human suffering. No, thank you. There's people out there who'll do anything for clout. I'm not one of them. How to deal with a passive-aggressive narcissist? I don't know. Passive-aggressive narcissist. Generally speaking, with all forms of narcissism, oh, God, you want to try and diminish as much contact as you can, I like it better out of sync, like a kung fu voiceover. Did you ever used to watch the old kung fu movies? You know that the Wu-Tang Clan took their samples from? Some of them are pretty good. There was a Jackie Chan movie, it's a very silly comedy, where the special move was called the concubine. It was so ridiculous. And we somehow at school, we got a VHS of this in 1995. And the teachers were going mental because there was an epidemic of us running around the playground. And the move, it's a comedy movie. You would do this with your hands like this. And then you'd kick with behind your leg like that and kick the person and shout concubine as you did it. I know it sounds untrue, but thank you, Jackie Chan. If you find a sensible question, are you ever going to braid your hair like a Viking? I don't think so. I don't really like that look. I associate it with Czech men. A lot of Czechs do that. There's a lot of like man bunning in Czech. I spent too long in the Czech Republic. Still humble, I see. Realistically, I'm 45. I look great. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to tell you a lie. I look great. I'm in the gym a lot. I don't drink very much, ever. And I eat pretty healthy, so I flipping deserve it. Anna Maria, why did I start? Himalayan. Your videos have helped me so much to get over narcissistic relationship. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. Fabulous. More of this. I have a very fragile ego and it needs as much aggrandizing as possible. Right. I thought I heard you say third narcissist relationship recently. What happened, man? Oh, God. Oh, God. I just wanted to come on and do a sound check. I'll tell you all about it another time. How about that? Yeah. Whew. That was a doozy. How to tell the difference between a narcissist and a selfish person? Because I don't know if my friend is a narcissist or a selfish or a shellfish. Go and look up the 9 traits for narcissistic personality disorder. And I think to get a clinical diagnosis, so you're not a clinician, I'm not a clinician, nobody's getting diagnosed in a clinic, nobody's being tested. But, why not just check if they match 6 of those defined traits and see what you think? It's quite a bit beyond selfishness. They need to be very attached to a grandiose, delusional version of themselves and of the world with them at the center of it. What's your favorite dinner? Right now, I have eaten in the last week, back in training and that, a lot of chicken and broccoli, and I'll tell you that is not my favorite dinner. My favorite, if I was going to just mash up a lot of food, like Czech food, if it's cold. Romanian food is pretty good. Portuguese can eat. Italians get all the credit, but that's because not enough people go to Portugal. Portuguese food is pretty good. I can't choose. I don't want to think about normal people food right now. I just want to think about chewing up dried bits of chicken. Is there a country you'd love to visit? I'd love to go back to New Zealand. I would love to see Colombia. I'd love to see Brazil. Hungary. I've never been to Hungary. Want to go. Moldova. Kazakhstan. I'd like to see Kazakhstan, Dagestan, and Uzbekistan. I'd love to go to Japan. Richard, you helped me so much. Thank you. Thank you. It's a very nice comment. Aggrandizing my ego is good, and I'm very grateful. Singapore. Graciela loves Singapore. I've been to Singapore a couple of times to get my visa stamped when I used to live in Malaysia. Stop calling the narcissist my narcissist is a good start for healing. Good advice from Christy B. Stop saying my narcissist or my narc. Do you have an opinion or experience with bipolar people? I don't have an opinion. I have experience with a bipolar person. And unfortunately, that was related to an actual war zone, which I said I wasn't going to talk about. The Yugoslavian conflicts left people with a lot of damage. But yeah. Have you seen the new John Wick 4? I left John Wick 4. I love Keanu Reeves, and I feel an ethical duty to support him because I suspect he's some sort of great spirit that's manifested on the planet, and he's of good intent. And if anything ever came out that he was involved in a scandal, I'd be really, really sad. But I don't think I need to see old Keanu there, still up. He's a long-limbed guy, and he's you know, he's not, none of it. I'm not young. He's not young. Doing a lot of martial arts. He's got long levers, and he's obviously got problems with his knees that he's trying to compensate for by gliding. And so there's a lot of him doing this weird spider movement as he tries to fight like 6. They're all the same stuntman. He just kills the same 8 stuntmen over and over again for the entire movie. And he's getting his gun and he puts it under their chin and the head pops off and he's like, and then he gets the skull of one and he reloads the clip and then jams the clip in the guy's mouth and shoots him down his gullet and it fires out the guy's. And I'm just like, wow, this movie is yelling at me, shouting at me. Oh, we're in Paris. Now we're in Saudi Arabia. Now people are dying in New York. And now people are dying. I don't know where we were, somewhere in Asia. I was like, what's happening? And it's just Keanu flopping around with his bad knees. I was like, I could do with some plot. I need some plot. You give me plot for 15 minutes and then 2 minutes of really good action. And then you can give me 15 more minutes of plot. But that was just like, no, we're just going to kill people for, 3 hours long? And once they had the dragon flare shotgun rounds where they fire the shotgun and flames come out and it was shot from overhead, I was like, I really would rather just go to bed. And the girl next to me was like, are you done with this? And I was like, I was done with this half an hour ago. She was like, can we please leave? I was like, oh God, yes, please, let's leave. Anyway, I spoke more about John Wick 4 than I did about narcissism. That's not really my job. I also saw The Creator the other night. Do you want Richard Grannon film reviews? You don't, but it's my channel. That's what you're going to get. The Creator, visually beautiful, only cost 80 million. Looks fantastic. Story makes 0 sense. Makes 0 sense. I'm not saying don't go and watch it. I hope Gareth Edwards does very well, and I'm sure he will. But that story had so many plot holes in. Bipolar related to narcissist? I said that funny. Is bipolar related to narcissist? I'm seeing an overlap of the highs in entitlement, lack of empathy, switching to depletion and days in bed. I can always say to people that, like, I've sat and read the entire cluster B section of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual 5 more than once. And so I'm like, oh, I'm all cocky about that. And I've read published papers on it for the last 12 years and books and stuff. And I'm no academic, I'm no genius, but I feel really confident, or quite confident, chatting about that narrow band, very intensely narrow band of psychiatric diagnoses. But bipolar, I'm not. I just don't know enough, and I don't want to blag it because I'll probably say the wrong thing. But I can tell you that in the cluster B spectrum of disorders, bipolar and narcissistic personality disorder is frequently comorbid with other mental health issues. I think I'm right in saying narcissistic personality disorder is one of the most comorbid personality disorders, meaning it typically comes with something else. It's very rarely diagnosed on its own. That's interesting, isn't it? BPD also highly comorbid, not quite as much as NPD. And one of the things that it's often misdiagnosed with is bipolar disorder because of the reasons that you gave. And that's probably as far as I can go with that comment, because that's all I've read. I don't mind pontificating if it's from an educated position. So I'll have a good old pontificate about BPD, a good old pontificate about NPD. You'll notice I stay away from psychopathy and from histrionic, because I'm like, I really haven't read enough, and for various reasons. But I will say, like, I'm pontificating. It's my ideas, but with bipolar, I don't want to touch it. I saw Denzel Washington in a question, so now I want to look for it. The new Equalizer film with Denzel Washington was great. I saw the first 5 minutes. I meant to see it tonight. I meant to see it 5 nights ago. I've missed it both times. Like Keanu, I just feel an ethical duty to support what Denzel does. Another Bapu, another great spirit manifesting in physical realm. So yeah, but you know, these are old, like, we love watching older dudes killing people. It's like the Taken series. It's like old dudes just being ninja assassins. It's this whole new genre. It's cool. There's hope for me yet. There's hope for me yet. Put me in. Korean show Moving is like 10 John Wicks. Okay, that sounds like a challenge. I will try and find it and watch it. Richard, what are your diagnoses? I've never been diagnosed. Do you have any personal experience with BPD or any of the personality disorders? I think in my late 20s, probably my mid-20s, based on the way I was living my life at that time, which I've spoken about here. You know, I was moving house a lot. Most of my possessions were in a car, and I was like with a girlfriend or living with family members in their attic, or I was very, very mobile. I did predominantly nightclub security as a job, and I was involved with I was in a violent world, working at night with all kinds of weird and wonderful people. And I think my own pre-existing issues plus environmental pressures would have meant that I think it's called factor 2 psychopathy. It is called factor 2 psychopathy. I'm being coy. I know perfectly well it is. But the reason I was hesitant is because I can't quite remember how it's defined, but I know that's what it is. So maybe previously called sociopathy. These are people with a conscience, but they basically live a criminal life, or let's say a life outside of norms. And the other element that I would have had, because I was a drug user, and I'd have very, very pronounced fight response, which was useful in the security industry, would have been borderline personality disorder. Had I been rigorously clinically tested by a psychiatrist, I suspect they would have said, if they were worth anything, they would have said, you don't have borderline personality disorder. Had I had somebody who's not at that level, with either a psychiatrist or a psychotherapist who specializes in it, but who just dishes out opinions as though there were diagnoses, I probably would have got it. I probably would have got that diagnosis, at least of BPD. On that point, if you're walking around saying, I have a diagnosis of BPD, and what you mean is a counselor or a clinician or even a psychotherapist said, I think you have BPD, you should really consider paying to get yourself tested properly. Somebody giving you their throwaway opinion that you have borderline personality disorder or any personality disorder isn't worth much, other than considering the possibility as an intelligent, responsible human being that you may have something and it might be worth getting tested for it. That's it. I've never been diagnosed with anything. I've been to therapists. I've been to therapists twice in my life because I suspected self-diagnosed addictive personality disorder and possibly some kind of sexual addiction. And I was told both times, no, you do not have that. So no, nothing. Be good if I did. Be good for my YouTube channel if I could be like, I'm a clinically diagnosed boobity boo, and then the community that's associated, whatever the boobity boo is, would gather around me. Blech. Whom is your ideal woman? Oh, that sounds like a trap. I don't know. I don't hold women in idealized, fantastical spaces any longer. I am 45. I am not a boy, and I am in therapy. Richard, what do you think the real possible percentages of models in the modeling industry have a large degree of MPD? I don't know. There is research you can go and find that for trait narcissism, people who put themselves in the limelight are usually high in trait narcissism. So perhaps that would include models. I remember like politicians and celebrities definitely were tested significantly higher than the average population for trait narcissism, but being high in trait narcissism is not the same as NPD. I think there's an online test you can do called the D factor, where you can find out where you are on traits like narcissism. Mine arc is poetic. After decades, I deserve it since I lived it, and I am breathing still. You deserve it since you lived it. I hear you. I think it would be better not to say my narcissist, but if you want to say my narcissist, you can. You can. You're an adult. You can do what you like. Any suggestions for if you can't afford ongoing therapy and your insurance won't cover it, USA? For ongoing therapy and your insurance won't cover it? No. I mean, no, I'm not aware of any free therapy or free coaching. If somebody else is, maybe they can comment. But as far as I know, you have to pay. I'm aware of like low price therapists. There's always counseling directories you can go to and psychotherapy directories you can go to in the USA, and you can check and look at their prices. But free? No, I don't think so. Do you think the 9 NPD traits are correct? No, I don't. I think it's an absurd way to measure a personality disorder by 9 equally weighted traits. And so does the American Psychiatric Association. And because of that, it's highly likely that they're going to change the way that they measure these things. They may even change the diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder altogether. 5 of them are very similar. Yes. If one is entitled, it's very common that he has self-importance and likes power and likes being around successful people. Yes. I mean, we could sit here and pull the whole thing apart. I can put forward other traits I haven't prepared. What do I usually say that I think are equally as important as the traits they've put in there? God, what was I always obsessed with? I think first of all, like there should be, it should be not equally weighted. At the top of the list, you'd be like, well, is this person attached to a delusional, grandiose version of themselves? That should be number 1. Like the break with reality. I think I was very keen. Oh God, that's 1. That's 2. So hyper competitiveness, I think, is as important to see. Because this is a diagnosis, to see narcissism. Hypercompetitiveness is easily as important as bullying. What was the other one? Oh, blaming, continuously blaming, like the denial, the no. This you've got to look for. I think it's very important and is a good indicator. It's a better, like people who are bullying or vain. Well, that could be anything. But because we've got to remember that this is originally from psychoanalytic theory, the concept of narcissism is Freudian. I want to see in Freud's name, I want to see a toddlerish no, and you did something wrong there. No, I didn't. You did it. I want to see no, and the denial and pushback. That's a personality disorder. I mean, even lying a lot, it's very bad. But is it an indication that the person is it an indication? I mean, it's mental illness. Are they mentally ill? Have they ceased to be sane. This is the thing. I think we have like mission drift. There's too much like identity politics has drifted into the mental health space, of course, because everything is psychologized. So some humans want to reclaim that space and be like, oh, because I have the diagnosis of blah, 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 that means I'm a wonderful person because everybody who has this is a wonderful person. And you're like, it means that you're not functioning properly, my friend. You need compassion, but you need therapy. It's not something to be proud of. It's not a merit badge. It's not, and nor is it an astrology sign. You should take it quite seriously if a clinician has thoroughly tested you and said, no, you really have a problem here. Take it seriously, like you would take any other illness seriously. Do you know what I mean? So I think and why am I saying that in answer to your question? Because I think even clinicians are falling prey to the culture, and we all have to just take a breath. It's a personality disorder. So there's an assumption of order, and then there's an assumption of this personality is not in order. This personality is disordered. Not this person is having a bad day or they're having a bout. It's actually quite consistent across time, across context. It's not changed by the context. It's not changed by time. It's not changed by mood. It's there all the time. So it seems to be permanent, semi-permanent, pervasive throughout the whole system, and personal. It's in the person. It's not in the environment. These are the assumptions. Now, if you want to come to me and say, oh, I think those assumptions are wrong and there's no personality disorders, we can have that conversation. But what we can't do, and what I see an awful lot of people online do, is they want to hold on to a psychiatric diagnosis and they go, here's my magic psychiatric diagnosis. And which means it's externally defined and externally validated, and I now want to change it. I'm like, I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can tell the psychiatrists who gave you the diagnosis what it means. You can't be like, no, this isn't what it is, Mr. Psychiatrist, it's something else. We all have to take a breath. The American Psychiatric Association has to take a breath. We know that it's infused with politics, and it needs not to be. It needs to clean up. So we should remember it. We should be looking for signs of ill mental health. Now, some people say, oh, that's so stigmatizing language. If you were diagnosed with lung cancer, would you be like, oh, that's stigmatizing against my lung? It is what it is. It's a problem to be fixed. Do you want to know? Or do you not want to know? Like, there's a problem here. And I think it's important for everybody to remember that, it's not like a hopeless situation. You can go to therapy. If somebody's given you a diagnosis, you can go to therapy and try and deal with it. It's not it's a weird situation where people both have total blind submission to the authority of the orthodoxy and then want to change the definitions at the same time. I'm like, you're trying to run a revolution and bring the establishment down using psychiatric and psychological principles to bring down the establishment of psychiatry and psychology because you're revolutionaries. And I'm like, what? But then at the end of it, none of you will have your diagnoses. None of you will be specially gifted with the burden of oppression anymore. Do you know what I mean? So no, I don't think I think it's a silly way of doing it. I've always said that. It's a shopping list. Oh, a bit bullying, a bit exploitative. Oh, 6 out of 9. Don't, and as you just said, they're similar. Yep. Long-winded answer there. Hopefully useful. And if it's not, you will all survive this terrible pain. Is there any link between complex PTSD, being wounded by NPD behavior, and mirroring that behavior in adult life? Well, NPD is a manifestation of complex PTSD. NPD is a manifestation, it's a trauma response. Specifically, it's the primary fight, secondary fawn trauma response from CPTSD. Can you end up mirroring that behavior in adult life if you've been, you said wounded by NPD behavior? Sure, wounded by NPD behavior, but like if you spent a lot of time with somebody who had narcissistic personality disorder, you would be entrained by narcissistic behavior. That's a whole other thing. So yeah, you said wounded and then mirroring. How about conditioned? How about entrained? You're living in rapport. We seek rapport as humans. We're tribal. We're group creatures. We seek balance with others. And so, yes, absolutely, it will seep into you. That's how you survive, is by developing narcissistic defenses. Good answer, dude. Thank you, Heather. If anybody else wants to give me just more validation, anything, appeal to my vanity in any way that you would like, I would appreciate it. I'm very, very fragile, and I love validation. Nom de nom nom nom. Why no more seminars? Oh, no reason. I'm in Dubai. I'm in the Middle East. I could do one in early December because I'm back in December. All my family will be in the UK in December, which will be wonderful. And I'm very much looking forward to that. And I do have time. I could come back early and do one in London. But then, I don't know, cost of living crisis. Will people really want to fly from Europe and America at the last minute to do I'd do a weekend seminar. I'd make it worth a while, but I don't know. It's a bit late now. And that's the only time I've got, because then it'll be early. Nobody's going to want to do a seminar in early January. So no reason. I'm ready to do a seminar. I could do a seminar tomorrow. I'd love to. I've got loads of new material inside of me. Stacey says, you writing a new book? What's it about? I've got a couple of books I want to write. There's a book I would like to write about really this conversation, redefining narcissism, really rethinking the whole thing. And not just accepting a lot of the stuff that we're using from that. Like, some of it is 123 years old, and some of it, a lot of it is from the 70s, like the late 70s. I know it exploded in popularity as a concept more recently, but people were writing about it in the 70s, and the core concepts are from there. And then you've got like internet narcissism ideology, folklore, that also needs like pushing back on. So I'd do it on that. Do you trick or treat on Halloween? No. What is your costume? None. You're really serious today, lol. I wasn't in the beginning. You just came in and somebody hashtag triggered me on my favorite nerd subject, which is the definitions of NPD. Let's have a good old nerd over that. If you've grown up in a violent and traumatic environment outside the home, can you change your mindset that protected you during this? Yes, but you will need face-to-face therapy. When I say face-to-face, that includes Zoom or Skype, but you must talk to another human being about this, another human being who is qualified and who is a specialist in what you're dealing with. You look great for someone your age. That's fantastic, Jill. Thank you. Yes, you're right. Correct. Oh dear. Ooh. Yeah, that's always disappointing to hear. See the spam? No. Please tell me if the spam, and I'll just give them the old Van Hammer. So if you have a question, if you could put it in a question mark. So my eye is looking for question marks. Oh, here's one that doesn't have a question mark. Do you do face-to-face therapy? No, but shortly, when I know I'm in a place that has good broadband, my young cousin is coming to stay, and then when she has left, after that, I will do some group coaching sessions. Groups of 5 people for like a couple of hours. I will do that, but one-on-one face-to-face therapy, I don't think I would want to go back to, or am suited to. I wouldn't be doing a good job for people, but groups of people I can deal with. In a Western society, if Western society took a more universal spiritual approach to therapy, do you think we would be close to curing NPD? If Western society took a more universal spiritual approach to life, the world would not look like it looks at all. There's really, Western, Eastern, these are fictitious definitions now. They have been for a long time. If a country has access to the internet and access to TVs, it's basically the West. If you mean the Anglosphere, where do you not mean? Everywhere's Western, everywhere is materialistic, capitalistic, consumerist. So the world needs this. The world needs a spiritual revolution. One day it will have one. But today is not this day. The world is better for what you do, clearing the muddiest of water so many. Now, this is a very high-level compliment. It feeds my grandiosity. I'm changing the world. I'm making the world better. Yes, excellent. Appreciated. And correct, I am. Where would the world be without me? I don't know. It would be stuck. Like, where's Richard gone? He's gone. Well, let's just all sit down then. Let's just all have a sit down. Richard, please consider a discussion, study of narcissism using Denzel's character in Training Day if you're hard up for topics. I am not hard up for topics, but nerding out about movies, especially great movies like Training Day. Probably my favorite Denzel performance. Is Training Day. That's a great film. I love Training Day. So yeah, I would do. Narcissistic psychopath, grandiose narcissistic psychopath. What are you reading these days? Thanks for asking. Just finished reading Beyond Good and Evil by Nietzsche. Unguided, yeah. Chapter to chapter, page by page. Read the whole thing. Weird. Wanted to throw my Kindle out the window a couple of times. Some of it is infuriatingly hard to read. And just at the point we're about to give up, it drops like an amazing knowledge bomb. So yeah, Beyond Good and Evil by Nietzsche. And I'm going to read one recommended by my mother about the rise of fascism in America in 1934. It's called something like It Could Never Happen Here or something like that. So I said, yes, mother, I shall read it. Richard is a stud. True. I mean, this is wonderful. When you say something nice about me, it's objectively and verifiably true. That's the law. The end. How can I stop feeling addicted to the toxic relationship? Sorry, I'm laughing at my last joke, not laughing at what you're saying. What kind of a man laughs at his own jokes? How can I stop feeling addicted to the toxic relationship? There is a connection that's built in a toxic relationship. It's called a trauma bond, and it depends on a shared fantasy space. It's been over for a week, but on and off for 7 years. You really, I'm sorry to sound like a stock record, you really should seek therapy with somebody who has a deep understanding of what's happening in narcissistically abusive relationships. I have a course called Unplugged from the Matrix of Narcissistic Abuse. You can do that course and get coaching along with it to coach you through it. You can do it with my sister. She's available, Anna@SpartanLifeCoach.com, or with Terry @SpartanLifeCoach.com. You should really take the time for yourself, invest in yourself, to really break this cycle. Yes, I won't say more than that. You should deal with this in a safe therapeutic environment with people who have experience of narcissistic abuse themselves and can help you. Wonderful. Your hair looks so Last Kingdom. Did you train their stunt team? Last Kingdom? What's Last Kingdom? Why do I not know that? Last Kingdom sounds like the type of film that I would want to be involved in. Oh, it's a series. Oh, it's a Netflix series. Oh, God. 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, but they lie sometimes. 8.5 on IMDb. I couldn't even get through Vikings. A series on Netflix. They drive me mental. They really, really drive me up the wall. like character introductions are clunky. The dialogue is always awful. The acting is patchy at best. But I will try. Last Kingdom. That's a very Vikings-looking haircut that dude has. Utrecht of Badenburg. Oh, he's a Saxon. Yeah. I'll try it, but I can't guarantee that I'll watch it. I wish they were better. I want to like them, especially historical dramas. I'm like, yeah, this is cool. I'm going to learn my dumb ass some history right here, and then it's tedious. Ring of Power is the worst streaming show. Yes, I watch The Critical Drinker, and I've been warned off it. It's about your history in the UK. How splendid. Oh, here we go. Oh, I'm going to get my spectacles on now. Do you think the fear of abandonment is correct in BPD? Fear, it should mean you're anxious and good to people. So to say, no, you see, no, it's not how it works. And good to people so they not abandon you, not being abusive. It's contradiction, fear of abandonment, and B cluster BPD. I think you've got an auto-corrected there. But I see where you're coming from, because you're like, well, hang on a second. But psychiatry, all of psychology, especially if it relies on psychoanalytic theory, is so perverse that you almost, as a layperson, you have to think upside down. I agree with you. So if you take all of the mumbo jumbo of psychobabble out of your head and you say, okay, this person is afraid of being abandoned. And you'd be like, oh, so they're just a people-pleasing, fawning codependent to stop people from abandoning them, right? Right, surely. So let's change one of the words. Instead of saying fear of abandonment, think of it as abandonment terror that's taking place inside of a highly traumatized worldview. So the person is already massively. So let me take you inside or try of what the model, because I don't necessarily agree with the model. I think there's something else going on there. But let's say what the model, let's be naively assume BPD is a valid diagnosis, which I'm not sure that it is. So the perspective of BPD, you're looking at somebody who's highly, highly traumatized. So you go inside of their world and you be them. So subjectively, I have a very, very shifting sense of self. I don't really know who I am. The abuse that I experienced meant that I can't really define the difference between my feelings and your feelings and my thoughts and my feelings. So sometimes when someone says something to me and I feel a certain way, I change it in my head so that they said something else. So you'd be like, would you like a cup of tea? And then that makes me feel a certain way. And I change it to, you just aggressively said, with contempt, oh, do you want a cup of tea then? Why don't you just get out of my house? And I say that to you and you're like, I definitely didn't say those words to you. Well, that's what I heard. Right? So if you've been with BPD, that what I just gave you is an example of a triggered BPD reaction. Then we trigger into rage, which is the fight response. So you're outside of this going, this person doesn't seem scared of being abandoned at all. In fact, they seem to be trying to get me to abandon them. So come back inside the world of BPD with me. I can't tell the difference between, or I struggle. I can, because it's borderline personality disorder. What's the border? The border is over here is psychosis. The reality's gone. What's replacing reality? The intensity of my emotions and my flashbacks that is just burning my perceptions to the ground. I can't see anything. I'm in a white hot rage. I'm in the depths of depression. I'm in the depths of my abandonment terror. You know, it's like everything is like 9 Inch Nails music or Linkin Park music. Everything has got this very dramatic film-like quality to it, but not a nice movie. It's like some weird European movie where all the people you grew to love in the movie like die horrifically at the end because catastrophe is coming. Why? Because for me, catastrophe is burned into my central nervous system. Persecution, humiliation is burned into my central nervous system. I'm terrified that you're going to leave me, but I have this hyperactive superego injunction that's telling me that I'm terrible. You remember Gollum? Gollum in Lord of the Rings, he was a man, or he was like a hobbit sort of a creature, but a warm-blooded mammal that enjoyed ale and dancing like the hobbits did. He was a happy little fellow, and then he got addicted to the ring, and it bled him dry of his humanity. Now, what did Gollum do? He would fight. He was borderline. He would fight between neurosis and psychosis. And what did he say? If you don't know Lord of the Rings, may God have mercy on you. But what he would say when he was with the hobbits and they tried to befriend him and they fed him and they were kind to him, he would, one half of him, which was Schmeagol, which was his original untraumatized state, would say, the hobbits are good and they love you and they're your friends. And then Gollum, the superego injunction, would fire and say, nobody likes you. And that was like, there's this great part of the movie, I can't remember which one, Peter Jackson movie, where it's two cuts of Gollum and Schmeagol. They're your friends. They want to help. They want to help us. He even calls himself us because he's shattered. He's split internally. They want to help us. They're our friends. And then the superego injunction from Gollum comes in and goes, friends, like with contempt. Nobody likes you. They want to kill you. They're trying to rob you. He has abandonment terror and a way of trying the terror. Have you been terrified? I lived with a girl years ago and I caught somehow her, she was BPD plus other things. God help her. Like very, 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 I didn't realize how traumatized she was. Again, unfortunately, from the effects of a war zone. And I somehow empathically, somatically experienced her terror for a period of time. Maybe it was an hour. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was 25 minutes. I caught her emotional dysregulation. And when you panic, biological panic, like, fuck, I'm going to die. It's not, you're not like, I think I should be mean to people now because I'm evil. Ha 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 ha. You're not there. You're like tearing your hair out going, it's a blind, terrifying panic. This is why the promiscuity, the drugs, the self-harm, like, how do I make this not hurt anymore? Because they're just in pain all the time, but not a pain. It's so awful because if you're in constant pain, be it physical or mental, the human body, we're very adaptable. The human mind, there's homeostasis. We kind of adapt to it. But the worst pain is on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, over and over and over again. So they're shattered, they're exhausted, they're tortured. And at the end of it, you'd be like, it really feels like you're trying to make me hate you. Years ago, I spoke because I never elected to work with people with borderline personality disorder. But the way I presented in my YouTube videos when I started in 2000, it was around 2014, 2015, and I was doing face-to-face coaching with people. Something about the way I was presenting attracted, I think I had an 80% borderline personality disorder client base, and I didn't know. I didn't know what I was looking for. I didn't know what BPD was until I think the beginning of 2015. I'd heard of it, but I didn't really know what it was. And so what I was dealing with daily was people who were very, very mental, and it was making me sick. No exaggeration. So I was like, okay, this is crazy. What am I going to do? So I go online and I find a forum with therapists in it, and I managed to worm my way in there. I'm like, what is this with BPD clients? And they're like, well, you've got to have specific training for this. and a specific protocol, because if you're not ready, it will make you sick. And they taught me something called compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue, they have a term for this. So the tragedy of the BPD client, if we accept the model as is, they're drowning. You throw them a lifeline, they try and pull you in with them in their psychosis. And when that doesn't work, they cut the lifeline. And you can watch them doing it. You can watch them doing it. And in the end, you probably won't stop them. You probably won't stop them. It's called compassion fatigue. You don't have anything left to give. And that's why my big thing at the moment is saying to people, you must go to therapy. YouTube videos ain't going to cut it. Online courses aren't going to cut it. You have to go to therapy with a qualified clinician who specializes in that subject. BPD is no joke. When you get people saying like, oh, I have BPD and I'm not full of rage and I'm not full of terror, they don't have BPD. BPD is misdiagnosed. This is the research, potentially as much as 40%. I'm sorry, ladies and gents, but if there was an illness, an actual physical illness that was being misdiagnosed at 40%, you would either do one of two things. You would either sling the diagnosis, or you would completely revolutionize the diagnostic procedure, because that is unacceptable. That's close to half. When you see and hear people saying, I have BPD and I'm not like that, they're gaslighting each other in the comments on forums. They're all over TikTok. They're all over Instagram, confusing each other. You've got to see qualified clinicians who specialize, because there's a ton of stuff. You can't just go to a clinician and be like, oh, you should know everything there is to know about avoidant personality disorder and borderline personality disorder and this and that. It doesn't work like that. In any area, people specialize. So you need a specialist. So coming back to the BPD reality, the reason that they have these, like you will experience it subjectively, as obnoxious behaviors where they push you away. These are tests. That's a child. That's not an adult. That's a child. And it's using child's logic. If you love me, you'll love me like a mother loves me. You'll never, like if a kid's annoying, normally, no matter how annoying a child is, the mother doesn't abandon the child. It comes with the territory. Your kids are going to be annoying. We don't usually, thank God, just leave them because, well, it's illegal. The police get really mad at you when you do that. And it's immoral. And it's against our genetic nature for most of us if we're normal, healthy people. So you're right with your question. Like, where is this fear of abandonment? These people aren't scared of being abandoned. They seem to wish to be abandoned. They're testing. The child is testing you and saying, I want boundaryless love. And you would think to yourself, when you experience that, you'll think, how dare you? How dare you? You're coming at me. You're 28 years old. I'm 32, or whatever age you are. Let's say like the situation. I don't have more money than you. I don't have more skill than you. You want boundaryless love from me. When you say that back to them and the adult hears it, now they're in toxic shame, because of course that's insane. But the child needs boundaryless love. There's parts of them that need boundaryless validation. And that's why they have to see a specialist who's really trained for this. It's not for me. I wouldn't do the training for BPD. I wouldn't do it. But I have nothing but respect for the clinicians who do choose to go through that process, and they have good modalities that protect. They protect the therapist. They protect the client. It works. Prognosis for BPD, really, really optimistic. I'll finish my point. It's a child testing the boundaries of unboundaried. I'm using confusing language myself. I want to test whether you will stay no matter what. Like a child, because my mother won't leave me no matter what I do. She's never going to leave me. If I'm a child, my mother will never leave me. So you're in infant zone. The terror that they experience is, so you have two things going on. I want you to prove to me. So BPD people will test you. What are you going to do for me? If I tell you to steal from me, will you steal from me? If I tell you to do something that's hurtful to me, will you do it or not? And if you don't do it, they can be really persistent. They're like, do it, 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 do it. Do it. And you're like, fucking hell, okay. And then you do it. I can't believe you did. And it's histrionics then. Big drama. I can't believe that you did the thing I've been begging you to do for years. Yeah, I did it. It's called compassion fatigue. I'm sick of you asking me. I want this relationship to end. So I did it. I couldn't believe it. Well, don't ask for it then if that's not what you want. But that's unfair. That's unfair. As if you understand the condition. As a normal adult walking around, you're just acting like a normal adult. That's the tragedy of it. If you understand the condition, it's unfair. You can't do that. You can't. If you know a BPD person is testing you, you should respond to them the way you would respond to a child. But that's not your job as a partner. That's for a therapist. That's not your job as a mother, a father, a husband, a wife. That is for a therapist to do. It's not for you to do. And you can be like, hey, you're testing my boundaries of whether I love you. I do love you. You can do it in therapy. I do love you, but I'm a human being and I'm not in your world. I want to be here for you. I want to support you, but I can't let you instrumentalize me and externalize and trauma dump on me. Which you've got to be tough to not let BPD people trauma dump on you. Why do they do that? Because their reality sucks. It sucks. Final point. The other thing that creates the abandonment is the superego injunction. It's saying, I'm trash, I'm trash, I'm trash. Well, I love you. No, you're not listening to me. I am trash. Okay, like I'm your boyfriend, I'm your girlfriend. Where do you want me to go from here? Well, I think that you should just break up with me. Is that what you want? Yeah, that's what you should do. And then cry. I can't believe you said you would break up with me. I didn't say I would break up with you. You said I would break up with you. Well, that's what I heard. And so on, and so on, and so on. It's tragic. If you've got inside of a human being, here's the compassion part when you understand it. When you have inside of a human being 2 or 3 superego injunctions that are going directly against each other, never leave me, get the fuck away from me. Never leave me, get the fuck away from me. It's annoying for you. It's annoying for me. It's testing for a therapist. It's hell for them. It's hell to hold. You probably everybody here, you want to know what it feels like for the BPD person? If you've been in a narcissistically abusive relationship and you've had bad days where you've had internally 2 instincts. One says, come on, Mary Sue, pack the car and leave. You're a grown woman. You don't need him anymore. He's done this, and this. And then the other part of you says, oh, but he could change. If I just love him the right way, if I just do something for him. This battle that you have, it creates something called cognitive dissonance. People misuse cognitive dissonance because it's another one of these misleading sounding terms. It's fundamentally the sensation of somatic stress that we feel in, you kind of feel it in your body, you feel it in your emotions when there's 2 injunctions going against each other, or you're trying to hold 2 thoughts in the same mind that directly contradict each other. It forces you to live in enormous stress. So I'm not saying let people do whatever they want in your life. What I am saying is if you suspect somebody is either highly emotionally dysregulated, deeply traumatized, never mind CPTSD, PTSD is enough. Simple PTSD is enough. Very emotionally dysregulated. They have PTSD. They're giving you mixed signals all the time. They need to see a therapist. They need to see a specialist. It's annoying for us. It's testing for therapists. It's hell on earth for them. And it can be dealt with, it's good. It's the cluster B diagnosis that responds the best to therapy, specifically dialectical behavioral therapy. Coming back to the beginning, probably because it is not a personality disorder. Okay. With such a serious profession that you're a part of, what do you do for fun? Don't be telling clinicians I'm a part of their profession. There'll be a lynch mob out for me. My God. Oh, I'm just a former taxi driver with a YouTube channel. I'm a mere what do you call it? A life coach. What do I do for fun? I read, hang out with my mates, travel, go to the gym, I dance, do bachata, which is nice. Thank you, Edwin. You're controlling me. Literally found MPD wife videos and it blew my mind. Literally, it's like living in hell. It's very tough. It's very, very tough. Would a narcissist be honest with a therapist? No. No. They would most likely play the same game they've always played. But if they are just high in narcissistic traits, there is a chance that they would if they could see an advantage in it and if they were ready to give up. Oh, wowie. The collapse of modern civilization. With time past, is there anything you would edit or alter? No, I've become more belligerently opposed to consumerism. I really do think it's a great evil in the world. And it's driving us apart from each other, you know. When I used to take acid, don't take acid. It's a terrible drug. It's too strong. It's too rough. It's too brutal. But I would see humanity as wonderful little cat creatures that were in, you know, like the Garden of Eden. And they're all happy and they're all together. And then things came into the environment. Things and greed and materialism and commodity fetishism. And we couldn't see each other anymore. And we lost each other. And then we were in a lot of pain and we became very, very mentally ill. We don't really need much. Everything is here. Everything is fine. We have plenty. There's loads of stuff here to keep us alive. We have dentistry now. Not everything ancient and natural is great. Who wants to die of bad teeth? We have dentistry. We have other bits of tech that are useful. And, you know, nature's nice. It's nice looking at the stars. We have each other. Everything's all right, you know. But greed. You need a physiotherapist, never mind a psychotherapist. I have a psychotherapist, now I'll get a physiotherapist. Good trips. What's a good trip on acid? It lasts too long, correct. I can communicate with trees on acid. I saw the god Pan on acid and he kicked me out of the woods. He chased me out of the woods in Bromborough. He was furious that I'd come to his woods high on drugs. Hi, it's Stephanie. Hello, Stephanie. Hello. I'll do one more question and then I'll get myself ready for bed because I'm tired. What's the biggest eye-opener you got from going to therapy? You're watching from Bromborough. So what's the... am I thinking of... Is it called... What are the woods in Bromborough? There's a train station there. And I met two punks outside. This is absolutely true, outside the train station. But it wasn't Bromborough train station. I wonder if it was Spittal train station. And I said to them, punks, like this is the 90s and they were dressed like it was the 70s. And I said, I've taken acid and I'm really scared and I don't know what to do. How can I make, it was Spittal train station. So the woods by there is called, what's the woods here? Oh, Brotherton and Dibbensdale. Yeah, I met Pan in Dibbensdale Woods. And they said to me, oh, don't worry, lad. You just need vitamin C, drink some orange juice. So I sat outside the spa opposite the Three Stags and necked 3 cartons of orange juice. I was covered in orange juice. Everything was sticky. And didn't stop the trip at all. Then I started talking to Christ. And yeah. What was the last question? What did you get from therapy? Oh, goodness, what do I get from therapy? All kinds of stuff. All kinds of things. First time I took acid, I was 13. Probably didn't help the formation of my consciousness. I was 13 also. Took it at Queen's College in Taunton. When I was at boarding school there. Biggest eye-opener you got from therapy? Oh, God, there's so much. The biggest. There's no singular thing. No singular thing, I'm sorry. From therapy. I have advice on going to therapy. Don't try and protect your therapist from the truth. Tell your therapist everything, and I mean everything, in order to give therapy a chance once you've established rapport and you've decided you trust them. When you start therapeutic sessions, start with the worst thing that's happening and really let them explore your emotional landscape. Tell them how it makes you feel and be ego-less. I was chatting to a chap last night, a guy from the Netherlands who owns a gym that I met in a gym called Ian. And we were talking about Buddhism. He was a drug addict. He recovered. He tried different systems. He tried CBT and different things. And there was a Dutch Buddhist who wrote a book called Addicted to Love. I haven't looked it up yet. I'm supposed to. Or Love Addiction. Buddhism helps with this stuff. It's very, very important to go into an ego-less state. Leave your ego at the door. Don't perform for your therapist. Don't be funny for your therapist. Funny stuff happens and you have a laugh, that's fine. But don't try and put on a performance. Just be ego-less and open up and tell the truth. There's another question. Let's say the last question. Oh, no, you don't want me to do that. You don't want me to do that. I wrote a book on Christianity in 2009. Maybe I should read Greetings from the Netherlands. Hello. I start therapy in the beginning of November and I'm frightened. Don't be frightened. Therapy is great. It's good fun. Once you get into the rhythm of it, it's really nice. It'll bring you a lot of relief. And when stuff happens in the week, you'll be like, oh, I could take that to therapy and not deal with it on my own. What's the best thing you learned from your narcissist? Gosh, I never thought of them that way. My narcissist. Ugh, I'd rather. Why do you guys say that? It's horrible. Just to think of that. If I take, okay, so my narcissist. No, I can't do that. I can't. That makes me very uncomfortable. No, there's something contrary to therapy in that. It's something that played out between two human beings. She's not mine. She's not mine. I'm not hers. So yeah, what did I learn? I think I learned in the end that having boundaries is good, and saying no to people is a really healthy thing and a really necessary thing. And in all cases that I experienced narcissistic abuse, I would say all of them were genuinely in pain. They were genuinely in pain. They were genuinely traumatized by events in their lives. But that's not an excuse. And I started hearing myself say, you need a therapist, not a boyfriend, which is both true in a very deep and fundamental way and alleviated me of the sense of guilt that I wasn't helping them. And I'm like, you can't help a girl, you can't help somebody that you're having sexual contact with and that you're in love with and you're doing this idealized romance fantasy thing with. You can't help them in their therapeutic process like that. A therapist can do that. You could be involved in somebody's therapeutic process. You go to couples therapy. I'm all for it. But you can't be your wife or husband's therapist. That's not a thing. And that was healthy. I was saying it as much to myself as I was to her. You need therapy, not a boyfriend. So that I would stop hoping that there was something I could do, because there was nothing I could do. And it alleviated me of that guilt and that sense of responsibility. This is a sound test. I've done 1 hour and 9 minutes. We've gone deep. We've gone deep here. And I think that's enough. I'm setting boundaries here. I want to go to bed. Yeah, I didn't mean to be serious. I meant to do something silly for 20 minutes and go, does the sound okay? And then disappear. I'll come on again tomorrow. I'll buy a webcam so it'll be a bit clearer. Put some lights up and stuff. And yeah, that's it. That's it. Thank you very much for your time and for your attention. And I hope that was useful. We're going to do this again a couple of times over the weekend. So if you have any questions, put them in the comments and I will read them. That's it. Wherever you are, have a pleasant day, pleasant evening, pleasant something. Enjoy your time.